You're listening to The Western Rookie, a hunting podcast full of tips, tricks, and strategies from seasoned Western hunters. There are plenty of opportunities out there. We just need to learn how to take on the challenges.
Hunting is completely different up there.
I've harvested 26 big game animals.
You can fool their eyes, but you can't fool their nose.
300 yards back to the road turned into 3 miles back the other way.
It's always cool seeing new hunters go and harvest an animal.
I don't know what to expect.
If there's anybody I want in the woods with me, it'll be you.
Welcome back to another Western Rookie podcast. I'm your host, Brian Krebs, and this podcast is brought to you by GOHUNT. We got a new topic today. We're going to be talking some West River, west of the Mississippi, coyote hunting. We haven't done that yet, and I have Blake Garrett on the podcast today. Blake, if you're not following Blake, there's a definite chance you're going to see some of the biggest West River whitetails you've ever seen, but he also whacks a lot of coyotes. So I thought it'd be a great episode. We might get distracted. As everyone knows, I love whitetail deer hunting, but we thought we'd start with at least the coyotes since that's the time of year we're getting to. So how are you doing today, Blake?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Doing great. So before we get too crazy into the podcast, your season just wrapped up. You got like maybe a little gap here before people really start chasing coyotes. Because from what I gather, I'm not a big coyote hunter myself. It's kind of like a February, March thing.
Yeah, so for us in Missouri, it's kind of all year for daytime stuff, but nighttime like thermal stuff. We only have a 60-day season here in Missouri, so it opens February 1st and then runs to the end of March. So that's when we really put the pressure on them, I guess I could say. Really try to pile them up as much as possible.
Hit them hard then.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got like a one. Well, Missouri, your guys' deer seasons are a little later too. Right?
Yeah,
we're not still deer hunting.
Yeah, we're still in archery until the 15th of January.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're gonna get a 2-week kind of break.
Yes.
Get as much sleep as you can, and then staying up all night.
It's and that 2-week break is right in the middle of like show season, so I've got like ATA and SHOT Show and all this stuff to prepare for, and so I really don't get a break until spring. But
wow.
Well,
are you doing this full time?
Yeah. I've done I've been a full-time content creator for like I think 6-8 years. Been on television since 2010. Started with TV and then just kind of found some holes in some marketing stuff and saw, hey, there's some options to give marketers kind of a better return on their investment, and started kind of working independently with them and kind of got more behind the camera, I guess I could say, than in front after I got out of TV, and really just started kind of working behind the scenes and trying to build the brand off of just content and exposure and not so much about Blake Garrett. I love to hunt. I love to do it, but I also like to entertain people, and I really like it when people like the content and watch it. So that's kind of where my passion has been the last couple of years for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, there's definitely, it was kind of a side topic. I'm a little biased because I have another podcast that I host, and I actually started that one about outdoor entrepreneurship because I've got a product business, and I just love sharing people's stories, get more people inspired to do the kind of things that you're doing, every day.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a huge gap between like the quality that some people are putting out now on their own, on YouTube's or their own websites, like compared to what you're like used to seeing on, standard airwave television, 22 minutes with ads. And like, there's so much more creativity going on now for like people like yourself that are doing it themselves and just telling stories. And like, it's crazy how much better almost everything about it is. Like, advertising's more native, the storytelling's better. It seems like sometimes the camera quality, like the production quality's better. Like, I'm blown away. Like, I'm like, who watches shows on TV anymore unless you just really like that person?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just go to YouTube and watch everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for me, it's kind of, it may sound crazy, but like I look at it like I look at art or anything else in the culture of, it's kind of molded and changed to allow producers to have a lot more freedom with what they do and how they do it. I mean, when I was doing
Right.
TV,
There's no gatekeeper anymore.
no, there's
telling
really
you what they want to
no.
see.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no requirements, right? Like TV, you've got 18 minutes. You've got a show that really shows for 18 minutes total. You have to have 13 episodes if you buy it, So guys are going out and they're just whacking stuff with mediocre footage just to try to fill those gaps for what those were.
Right.
Where a guy like me, like I can work with stuff, and if I want to make a 30-second video, I can do it. If I want to make a 15-minute video, I can do it. If I want to make a 30-minute, I can do it. Whatever kind of situation arises, I can kind of change my tactics to do that and produce that. And I think ultimately, marketers have seen kind of that advantage, and and definitely on the price points, you're not in the hole $100,000 at the beginning of the year when you buy your airtime anymore, right? So you don't have the overhead, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So I've found more passion in building. I built some commercials now that are on TV for companies. I do print ad stuff for them, behind the scenes stuff. And for me, I'm just happy to be here, right? Like my goal as a
Right.
kid was just to do this for a living and do what I love. And so the fame, I don't know, all the fame, fortune stuff is out the window for me. I'm just having fun and trying to entertain somebody. And it means a lot when people, come to the platform like Instagram or things like that and are like, man, I watch your stuff. It's awesome. I really like this. I really like this. Like that means more than anything else. It's not about me sitting behind a deer gripping and grinning. It's just more about people being entertained and learning. And hopefully, people down the road, kids that watch it kind of have an easier road that can get into it with this way instead of, like you said, like a gatekeeper and things like that.
Yeah, that's crazy. We'll have to get you on the other podcast at some point and hear like your full story, because
For
I'm
sure.
sure we could go like multiple hours if we're talking hunting and brand and business and all these things at once. But the one thing I was curious about, so when you started on the air and you're trying to fill episodes, were you then were you a predator hunter before that, or were you like, hey, this is an option to do like 1 or 2 episodes of this to kind of fill out my season, and kind of added it as you've started this journey of, entrepreneurship or whatever you would be on your own, working for yourself? Did that come in later?
No, actually, coyotes were kind of like fishing was to me, where it was what I got to do by myself to get away, not have to worry about taking a camera. It was kind of my time off, right? And it was what I really just enjoyed when I could just kind of reset. It came at a very good time of the year for me because whitetails were over, and it's just crazy for whitetails. So when I was doing television, it was all about turkeys and deer. And I say it to this day. I had a podcast last week I was doing, and I was talking about how deer is work. Like, and they are. Like, I love deer. My passion for deer is insane. It has to be, because I would be so burned out in this aspect of it. But deer season is work for me. It's when I have to, any missed opportunity on content gathering is a downfall. Like, you have that pressure, as well as you just have pressure of killing a good deer and killing the deer you want and playing that chess match. But on top of it, you have, it's a lot of guys don't realize, but if you have a 9-to-5 job, say you go in and you work overtime for a month straight, and then at the end of the time, you don't get paid because the deer didn't show up. Like that's the thing. You can put everything you want to into it, but if the deer doesn't line up right and the situation doesn't come, or you don't get it on camera, then it's not there, right? You just wasted all that time. So there's just so much pressure with whitetails that really predator hunting came from me just trying to get some time off and having fun. And then it slowly started building and building and building. And I'm trying my best to not turn it into work, but it's almost getting to the point to where it's like, okay, it could be another avenue to kind of chase as well. Because if you watch anything on the page, I go from deer, whitetail management prep, food plot stuff, all the way into hunting. Then I go into coyotes, then I go into turkeys, and then we go right back into whitetail. It's just a constant all year long. We're busy, but that's what I have to do it full time, right? It's just not, for where it is and what I have to do. But I'm still trying to keep a little bit of coyote hunting to myself as much as I can,
Just having fun and going out and doing it. So I've never shot a coyote. I've missed a bunch with my bow.
Yeah.
I've tried it a couple of times and never with like a full, whatever you'd call a full toolbox.
Right.
You know, I'd have like the smallest, cheapest electronic little like key fob that, you know, it's not like a Fox Pro with a megaphone. I was using a shotgun. You know,
Right.
I've used both birdshot and like slugs, but I'm like, well, I don't really have a rifle for coyotes, so I'm either going to shoot them with my 300 Win Mag or my shotgun. I don't know. Either way, it's probably going to be destroyed.
Yeah.
And so the only time I've ever seen them is bow hunting.
Ah.
And I need to start learning that I need to aim about 8 inches under them because those suckers are dialed. Like
Yeah.
they hear anything and they're gone. I've had multiple shots on film where you're watching this arrow go for a perfect 40-yard heart shot, and then like the last feet, it just out of there, and the
Yeah.
arrow hits thin air.
They're
And
tough,
so
man.
I want to get into it though. It looks like a blast.
It is.
looks like something that you described. Like this is my time off. This is my fun hunting. And you know, you miss a coyote, bummer. It's not like missing a 180-inch buck. You didn't
Correct.
see a coyote today, bummer. But it's not like you went a whole season, like you said, and didn't have a shot opportunity. On the flip side, you shoot 3-4 coyotes in a day. Like whoever is shooting 3 or 4 deer in a day? No one.
No.
Virtually no one.
Nobody.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you can rack up a bunch of fun trigger pulls in a short amount of time doing
Right.
other things than deer hunting, basically, is kind of the thought there. And so I really want to get into it.
Yeah.
But I have no idea where to start. So that's why I kind of thought we'd talk about today.
Yeah.
Like what does I assume it's more fun in the West because you can generally see more
Correct.
versus the East. Like we just bought a 40-acre farm here in Minnesota. We got a ton of coyotes on it. I get cell cam pictures every night of coyotes. So I want to start trapping, and you know, but I can only shoot like maybe a small lane for 100 yards in the swamp where
Mhm.
I've cleared out a food plot. That's it. So I'm like not really hunting that much area with, and I can't use a rifle. So
Right.
I could probably use a rifle for coyotes. I can't use a rifle for deer. But anyway, I could do it here as like a tool for my deer habitat. But if I really wanted to do coyote hunting, I'd go out west. I'd go to North Dakota, Montana, somewhere where I can see a bunch. Seems like there's more coyotes in the West. I don't know if that's true or if you just see them all the time and hear them all the time. But like assuming we're doing like a Western coyote hunt, like what are like the bare minimum someone would want to have, you know, to have a fun hunt? Maybe not like all the bells and whistles, but like you should really like try to at least get like this and that before you go.
Yeah, I mean, main thing, you know, a good rest. Obviously, knowing your rifle's good, right? And you can get
Right,
some
yeah.
you can get some inexpensive rifles for sure. I mean, there's rifles for $400, $500 that
Right.
are hands down fine for what you need, right? So more about finding your caliber and knowing just kind of what your range is, right? So if it's 300 and in, cool, you know that, you shoot that gun, you know what that drop is because coyote's a small target. Usually it's fast when things happen, so you need to be on the gun. You need to understand how to shoot that gun quickly and how to adjust to those distances. So I'm going to say definitely a rangefinder for sure, so you know your ranges on your shots. Number 2 is probably a good rest. So I do a lot with Bog. Bog has a ton of different options for rest. Their Sherpa Death Grip is super nice, super small, super compact, perfect for sitting down. One thing a lot of guys miss is like a good seat. Like even if it's just a bleacher seat fold out thing, that's huge for sitting on the ground. Some guys even use like elevated chairs and actually sit up. I'm super OCD, so I'm like a big hider. Like when I used to,
So you're like laying prone with some covered
like I'm wearing like the half ghillie hoods, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, like we hide when we hunt, but I do that because we also try to shoot them as absolutely close as possible. And I don't like shooting like scared coyotes or busted coyotes. Like it's just a personal thing for me, and it's about beating them completely. You know what I mean? It's kind of like
Okay,
ducks.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Like
if
he
you
didn't even know he was dead.
yeah,
he was-
like, you know, duck hunters understand, like, you want ducks that work, not like sky blasting ducks, right? So,
Oh yeah, yeah.
so
for sure.
it's kind of the same situation for me and coyotes, but a good hide is always good. Pay attention to your wind because 9 times out of 10, that's what the dog's going to do. He's going to try to run the wind at some point, regardless. I mean, I can count probably on one hand how many times I've had a coyote just crash the call that paid no attention to the wind.
Yeah, and he's probably hungry.
Yeah, like he was tricked. You know, he saw the decoy and just got tricked with it. But
Yeah.
so I think good gun, good optic, obviously, rangefinder, a good rest, a good seat, And then there's some calls like you talk about. I mean, you don't have to spend $800 on a call. You don't have to spend $1,000 on a call. A lot of the Fox Pro calls now are coming with pretty good sounds on them already that definitely the weekend guy could use and utilize. And if he's not really pressuring his ground, could have a lot of success with, that are inexpensive, $300, things like that could get you kind of into it. And then the biggest thing is just finding an area that's got some pretty good population of coyotes on it, right? So for me, what I always look for here is livestock typically, and not just because of livestock like cows. Obviously, when they're calving and things like that, there's a lot of afterbirth and things like that out there for the coyotes to eat. But it's more about pasture ground and grass ground. If you've ever gone out at night and thermal hunted or anything like that, you'll notice that you see a ton more mice, rabbits, birds, things like that live in that ecosystem of a good grass platform or a good grass on the ground, not like a crop ground situation kind of thing.
Oh, I see what
you see what I mean?
Yeah. Because you're in Missouri, so you're in like mixed egg.
Absolutely.
Right? Some of it's pasture land, some of it's row crop.
Absolutely.
So you're just saying like, hey, the row crop stuff, well, first of all, like standing corn, good luck.
Yeah, I know,
right?
It's not happening. Yeah.
Yeah, and then if it's plowed, good luck.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just gonna be nothing there. It's a wasteland.
Right.
So you got like this fine window where there might be a lot of animal, pick corn. There might be a ton of mice and squirrels and everything in there, but you get 1 week.
Exactly.
1 week and the people are deer hunting then, so they're like, no, you're not coyote hunting.
Exactly.
During that time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And cattle farmers typically hate coyotes anyway because of them harassing cattle and things like that. So that's usually something you look for. Now, go farther west, like western Kansas, where I hunt out there. There's a ton of CRP. It's all grass, pretty much, and ag's pretty hard to find. But the population's a lot thicker out there because of that. It can support that much more food for a coyote to eat, and I think that's why your population's so much higher out there. But those are things we look for. In Missouri, it's crucial to find really good ground because, there's coyotes everywhere, but there's definitely some like pockets of just crazy numbers of coyotes. And that's kind of what we utilize here just because it's so mixed and diverse here.
There you go. So it sounds like, obviously the gun and being able to put the bullet where you want, like just forget about everything else. You got to be able to put a projectile where you want, no matter what you're hunting.
Absolutely.
So that's a given, but there is a little bit of nuance with that, right? Like, for example, I have 2 rifles. One of them is a 100-year-old single shot 22 about this long that I would be like a great trapping rifle.
Right.
I could just walk up and a 300 wing mag that weighs about 13 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Those are, because I don't coyote hunt
right.
and I only elk hunt, and and I've shot an antelope with it when I had to, but I don't have. I mean, maybe I have to turn in my sportsman's card, but I had an AR and I sold it. I just never used it.
Right.
I kind of regret it now, but at the time I needed the $500,
right.
And so it's something I want to get, but it just seems like there's always that thing, right? Well, I want an AR, but I need a snowblower for the tractor, or I want an AR, but I need the, you know what I mean? So I don't have that perfect coyote gun. So if I was to pick a gun, I would say the easy choice is 223, right? Like that's the didn't put any thought into it, just get a 223.
Yeah.
But there's more to it than that, right? Like what would you say are like maybe like the Cadillac of calibers for a varmint gun?
So what I shoot is a 6mm Creedmoor, not a 6.5. Okay. It's a 6mm Creedmoor. It's a 103 grain bullet. Hornady makes them. You can buy the factory load Precision Hunter or the 100 rounds ELDX. Great bullet. That gun, I have 2 of them. I shoot my day gun and my night gun are built exactly the same. Just one has a thermal.
So is that going to be like slightly smaller than a 243?
Yeah, it's like a hopped up 243 essentially. A little faster, 30 cal bullet, longer bullet. So you get a lot better flight and a lot more consistent flight downrange.
Okay.
I really like the 6 for coyotes because it handles the wind well. And it has a very good knockdown power at 300 and beyond if you're shooting over a 100 grain bullet. So it holds a pretty good force for that. You go to 223s, 250s, things like that. You start really falling off when you start getting out to 300 yards with effectiveness. Not to mention that the wind buck is just horrible on them. So if
Yeah.
you get to places like Kansas, things like that, where you have a 10-mile-an-hour wind out in Kansas is not wind. It's like, oh, the wind's not blowing today if it's 10 miles an hour. It's like 30's
Right.
normal. So when you start shooting small bullets like that out there, man, it really starts blowing that bullet right, left a lot. So we went to a heavier bullet with the 6 millimeter, and it's just been phenomenal for what we're doing, especially at nighttime. I've hunted with a lot of guys that shoot ARs, shoot 223s, and I can't tell you how many coyotes carry that bullet, what we call carry the bullet, where they'll run with it. So you won't really drop them. You'll hit them. They'll run for a while. They may die eventually, but they're going to run with it. Shooting a little,
Oh,
shooting a little bigger bullet helps with that, but especially at night, because what guys don't realize in thermals are, say you'll call in 2 coyotes and you shoot one and you'll go to the other one and you'll shoot it and you come back and this coyote's gone. It's not like
you didn't watch where it went.
yeah, it's not like daytime
Yeah.
where like you can just see him get up. You know what I mean? If you're not in your gun, so you want to make sure at nighttime you're shooting a big enough bullet. You're going to drop him there, and he's not going to tote it out of there.
And so the one thing that I would be worried about, and I don't even know if it's real, but the way I would think about it, what I've heard with coyotes or varmints, like if you're hunting for the hide, especially is you want a bullet that's like an extreme expansion tip. So it's going in and it's expanding so much that it doesn't come out at all. There's no exit hole.
Mhm.
And that so you have one pinprick hole in the hide, and that's it. And you obviously a 223 with a 40 grain, expansion tip or frag tip
Mhm.
that's gonna like break apart is gonna be perfect for that. With a, my first thought was like with 100 grain, you're probably typically getting pass throughs then, right?
Depends on where you shoot him. Yeah, if you lung them, if you shoot them through the rib cage, yeah, you'll get a pass
Yeah.
through for sure.
So
Shoulders,
then are you getting a little bit of like hide damage on the back side then?
yeah, but not much.
Not as much as you'd expect.
Yeah, I would say a quarter hole maybe.
Okay.
But
Oh, that's
now,
not that bad.
yeah, but now if you're, there's ones like I've shot a lot of bobcats close, and if I shoot them in the chest, the bullet won't come out. It'll stay in. But if
Really?
say I got like a quarter on them, and they're kind of quartering to me or whatever, and I go in that shoulder blade, then it'll blow a pretty good hole in the side of them. So you kind of got to make sure you keep that expansion, But you're also, when you're talking shooting bobcats, I mean, it's usually within 50 yards. So, because
Really?
they typically can just work in on you to where you don't see them till
'Cause it's
they're,
a cat, not a
yeah,
dog.
man,
They're sneaky.
they're so sneaky. Yeah. They'll get in on you and you won't even know it. So, a lot of times it's within 100 for sure on a bobcat a lot before they just don't like being out in the open. They're not like a dog, and you're sitting there,
Okay.
looking for motion because that's what your eyes naturally look for when you're coyote hunting because that's what usually comes in. They come in fast and hard, and you
Yeah.
kind of miss the bobcat that's sneaking. And heck, we've had bobcats get to the call and 3 of us not even see it. I mean, it's
How close is the closest you've had like either a bobcat or a coyote?
I mean, at night,
Like measuring in feet or
yeah, like at night we had one run in between us and we were within 5 feet of each other. Like,
So there's a coyote that ran like 2.5 feet.
yeah, right in between us. Yeah. One time at
And you
night.
did you not know it was coming? Like
No,
it came from behind you or
no,
something?
it came in with a 3-pack and we shot 2 of them and it didn't know where to run. So I think it was just trying to
Oh,
get
so
out
it
of
just
there. Yeah, it went right in
picked the
between us.
direction.
Absolutely.
Did you try to shoot him as he went by at like 2 feet?
No, because we couldn't swing towards it because it's, we're on each
Well,
side.
yeah,
of it.
right. But
Yeah.
like as he's
Yeah, it
coming in,
was-
like quartering at 10.
Yeah, no, it was chaos, but
It was chaos.
swung back around, yeah, and we didn't end up getting it killed either. It got out of there before we hit a brush or hit a fence line and got through it. But yeah, I mean, there's some close stuff. Bobcats, I've had some bobcats get, I mean, within 15 yards or so, where we were sitting on like a fence row, and they come up it, and you'll just look over, and they're sitting right on the edge, looking at the call, like 15 yards down the edge from you, just sitting there watching it.
And there's nothing you can.
No.
You try to swing. They
Yeah,
won't leave.
you can't. Yeah, you just got to let it. You hope, you hope the cat would work on out towards the call and you can kind of get behind it and make the move. But 9 times out of 10, cats watch more than they move. So it's tough once they get to that close. You know what I mean?
And is that cat gonna like duck into the fence row and follow that out, or is he gonna run across the prairie where if you were a good enough shot, you could hit him on the run?
If they run, I've had some that boogered that have gone out in the open, and man, if they do, they're hustling. I mean, they're not like a coyote. Like a coyote will kind of lope, but he may even turn around and look a lot of times. Like a cat's gone, like he is burning. if he goes. But typically they use cover. They're one of the sneakiest animals. I mean, there's a lot of cats out there, at least in Missouri, and you don't see them very often just because of that. They're sneaky.
Yeah, that's crazy. So what happens when you get a coyote on the ground? First of all, I've heard that they pretty much all have fleas, so a lot of times people don't like pick them up right away.
I haven't really ran into fleas much. With foxes. I have. Foxes are usually pretty horrible with fleas. Coyotes, I haven't really ran into many. I'd say.
Can you see, like, are fleas big enough? I've never really experienced fleas. Can you see them with your naked eye, like in daylight, before you pick it up? You're like, oh, that one's got fleas. Like, I better get the drag rope out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can kind of look at them and see. Yeah.
Yeah, but you get a coyote, you recover it, you dump him in his tracks. You're like, all right, we're bailing out of here. You know, we waited, or maybe after you shoot one, is it the gig up? Then that spot's kind of burnt for the day. You know.
No. Sometimes we'll go back to that spot like that evening. If we're say we're making a run and we're going around, we may try to come back into it from a different angle if we have it with wind and do a different set. We won't go back to that exact same spot unless it's just like a hands down awesome spot that you can get into really clean and we feel like we've got other options that you could call dogs into. But a lot of times we'll come back to spots if we blank them. So like if we go and we call them and we don't kill the dog there and we know it's a really good spot and there's a good population there, we'll let it rest for a couple hours, maybe through the midday or whatever, and then go back. Or if we're at nighttime, we'll go hit, 3 or 4 more spots and then come back to that spot. A lot of times dogs will hear you, especially at night. They'll hear the call, but they'll be so far away or they'll be doing something else and just kind of keep it in the back of their mind. And then they swing that direction at some point to get back in that area.
But if you pull a trigger, like there's no sense waiting half hour more and see if what else comes. It's like, we shot, probably not. Like we've done this enough, it's not worth our time. We're better off spent going to a new spot.
Depends on what you're doing, right? Like if we're in a tournament, absolutely, we're going to keep moving as much as possible just because we want to do as much fresh sets as possible because we're trying to stack up as many coyotes as we can in this allotted time. If it's just a fun hunt, I'll soak some sets. I mean, there's been a lot of times that we've called coyotes within 10 minutes and shot one and then have shot either a cat or a coyote in 20 minutes after that in the same set. Like,
are you using suppressors?
Yeah, we shoot suppressors.
Okay, so if you're not using a suppressor, it's probably even worse.
Probably,
of calling in that next one.
I think you're going to have more of a shock value with them. It's just like deer. You can watch a field full of deer, and if a guy shoots a gun that's a little ways away, they're not really caring. But if somebody shoots a gun in that field, it's going to kind of move them off of it. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah. So it's I think it's kind of that same situation, right? Like you disturb more area if you're not shooting suppress. So whatever that cone may be, say for instance 500 yards. Okay, for 500 yards you alerted everything that there's something that goes boom in that area. I'm not going to say there's never, and just like in whitetail hunting, there's never a 100% answer on it. They're animals and they do dumb stuff. But yeah, I mean, the ideal is to be calling fresh stuff as much as possible.
Sure.
If you can.
Sure. So you get a coyote, you're done hunting. You may, I don't know, hit 4 or 5 spots, got a coyote or 2. What do you do with your coyotes at that point? Do you do anything with the fur? Are you selling them? Is it in the round or on the hoof or whatever it's called? Like you just pick them up by the tail and put them in a guy's truck and he gives you some money? Are you keeping them? Like, what are you doing with them?
So a lot of times if they have a good hide on them, we'll go ahead and skin them out. It's tough to find a good hide for us. Usually we have pretty good mange going on with them. If they are busted up at all with the gun, like if they've got giant holes, things like that, obviously we'll just pitch them. But for the most part, it's just about controlling the population. That's the end all be all for what we're trying to do out there. And that's why thermal's so fun for us, because we can really stack them that time of the year and do some real damage on the population as much as possible.
Nice. Okay. I imagine I would probably have a little bit better time with just overall fur because I'm 500 miles north of you.
Mm-hmm.
So that, the coyotes with mange don't probably make it very well.
Absolutely.
Through the winter.
Yeah.
And so I've already seen pictures where they're looking fluffy. They're not looking like summer coyotes anymore. We haven't had like super brutal winter yet, but, so that part would probably be a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
So then once you're skinning them, are you, then you're just drying them. And if it's if it's a good hide, do you keep them just for fun in like a collection? Like I've got a wall of antlers behind me. I never sell any of them.
Mhm.
Or are you selling them off like part
No.
of like, hey, we're paying for gas money with these?
No. I keep all mine. I don't sell them off
Okay.
at all. I mean, the ones we keep, I'll either mount them. I've got a bunch of dead hang mounts that are just look like a coyote hanging by its foot. So I have some of those.
Like stuffed
Yeah.
or just a hide?
No, it's stuffed. Yeah, it's a full mounted coyote, but just hanging by its foot. So
Oh, that's sweet.
yeah, it's good. They're really
Like
cool.
like you shot one hanging on a fence post
Absolutely,
while you did something else.
100%.
Okay.
Yep. And it's kind of a cool way you can show off, 4 or 5 of them, whatever, kind of along your mantle or in a corner on a post or whatever. It's really hard to find a good taxidermist that can do coyotes well, but
Yeah.
a lot of them can do them like that because you're not, I mean, the face is down for the most part. It's not so much emphasis on the face and the posture of the animal. So I like it a lot better. I don't know. It's just a cool way for us to kind of show them and
Yeah.
hang
Well,
them differently.
for sure. Okay. But you must have a lot of coyote fur
Yeah,
around.
quite a
Like
few.
just
Yeah,
in the shop or in the garage or in the house.
in the house.
Keep
Yeah,
quite a few. Yeah.
yeah, we keep quite a few of them. And there's a lot of them that get pitched, but it's like I said, because of mange and things like that
Yeah.
it's just tough to find a good hide nowadays for us. It seems like.
So do you do any of the just hide yourself? Obviously, like the taxidermist and the mount, that takes a special skill. A lot of people don't have it. You could always learn it. But like for just the hide, are you just drying that yourself and tanning
No,
it yourself, or you're having them
I have
taxidermists do that too?
taxidermists tan them. Yeah, send them off and
Okay,
tan them.
just
I do the
not
same
worth
thing
your
with
time.
bobcats too.
Yeah.
That I don't mount. We'll just have them tanned
Yeah.
up.
Okay, cool. I was just curious because I've heard that coyotes, especially the farther west you go, are worth more. More and more the farther well, you bigger, better fur. I don't know what the difference is. West of the Missouri is, I think, the real dividing line. It seems
Mhm.
from what I've heard.
Yeah.
And there's people that are stacking up like dollar bills
Oh yeah.
from these suckers. Like it changes with the market, but I've heard people say like, yeah, right now coyotes in the round are going for like $80 out here.
Yeah.
I'm like, $80 for these things? Holy crap!
Like good
Pays for
ones.
your equipment really fast. Yeah.
Yeah, good ones. Good ones so good. Bobcats are the same. A good bobcat will sell it. Now it's tough to find the size, and it's kind of
Yeah.
you kind of gotta. It's kind of got to be a perfect medium of everything, size and fur quality and all that, and color.
Yeah. I've heard like high alpine bobcats for whatever reason just have a different fur that's super valuable.
Yeah.
I heard I don't know where I heard it from, but yeah, like this person sold a bobcat for $1,000
Eh,
because it was way up in the alpine, and it had like not only like great fur and everything you talked about, but the pattern itself was unique
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, and it was they're bigger and stuff, and
Right.
so I was like, wow, geez, man, I can't imagine. Trapping's obviously, if you're wanting to make money in the fur
Oh
business,
yeah.
trapping is a lot more controlled. You're not putting huge bullet holes through them.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm kind of mixed between both. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to trap out west. That would be like a weekend trip with the rifle, but it seems like it's just something fun to do. There's not a lot going on this time of year,
Nope.
especially in the West. February, I'm typically shed hunting here by then.
Mm-hmm.
In the West, most of the states have laws now. You can't start till April, May, somewhere in that time anyway. Plus, Western animals don't drop as early, and there's a ton of snow. So there's like,
Right.
3 double whammies of why you aren't shed hunting February, March out west. So there's really nothing to do out there. And then seems like a great time to, go do something fun, and you're helping the herds. Like I got to imagine almost every species benefits. Like every hoofed species that we like to hunt in the fall benefits when there's not as many coyotes.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah, and you see instant results. So if you hit an area with coyotes that year, say you hit them in February, March, your fawn ratio to survival, of that very next year comes back, and you'll just notice that you have that many more fawns just in white-tailed deer alone. You have that many more fawns that
Right.
make it through that immediate year after, before
Yeah.
those coyotes can pup and regenerate their population back up. You get a good year in there, you know what I mean, a good jump on them to where the deer
Right.
actually get a chance to get back on their feet if you have a low declining deer population or things like that. Same way with anything else, right? Turkeys, upland birds, any of that stuff, rabbits, all that stuff. It gives them pretty much a spring off where there's less coyotes.
Right. I mean, most like turkeys, rabbits, pheasants, all that stuff, like they're gonna get they're gonna have issues with predation their whole life.
The whole life.
But a deer, once they hit adulthood, like unless things go wrong, they're usually safe from like coyotes.
Absolutely.
You know, they'll for sure in the wintertime, yeah, and the more snow, the worse it gets. But like, I don't think a lot of deer are getting killed by a coyote healthy in the summer.
No. Adult deer, no. No, even in the
Right.
winter, I don't believe. You know, I mean, especially
Unless
down
you
here.
get like extreme snow and like yarding and sickness,
Right.
whatever. The things can stack up, and eventually a coyote can get lucky.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but a healthy adult deer,
No.
probably pretty rare that they're having issues with that.
Yeah.
So it's like you just give them like this quick little burst, and then they're safe. And then once they're safe, they start. I mean, and then it's a numbers game, right? Like
Right.
we're dropping 100 fawns a year, and the coyotes can eat 20. Well, they're going to eat 20 whether there's 20 dropped or 100 dropped.
Right.
So if you only drop 20, they eat them all.
Right.
If you drop 100, 80 of them survive. I mean, it's like
Right.
simple math. And if you take out those coyotes, now they're only eating 10. Like either way, both situations are better off.
Absolutely.
So I think it's going to be something that I want to work into my fall. What we got going on here is super interesting. So I have a 40. Our block is like 300, and everyone's houses are on the outside of it, you know, with deep lots. And so it's all like country lots. Like everybody's got like 10 acres. Well, on the backside, one of the ladies has she's a DNR orphanage, like a certified orphanage for animals. So she can take anything in Minnesota except moose and black bears. And so every year she takes in all these fawns that their mothers get killed on the highway or something, and she raises them. And she's got like a 5-foot. I haven't met her. I've called her, asked her if she had coyotes in her orphanage, because we hear packs. Like I've heard lots of coyotes before. It's definitely at least 6.
Wow.
Like you can hear like it'll be like 2 straight minutes of like constant yips over each other. Like I've never heard. Like I've heard onesie, twosie, 3. This is like a chorus of coyotes. It's incredible. I'm like, she's got to have like 20 coyotes in a fence or something. That like that's what's making this noise. And she's like, no, I don't have any coyotes. I have 40 foxes, but I don't have any coyotes. And I'm like, uh-oh, this ain't good. Like that's a lot of coyotes. I can hear them from my windows in my bed sometimes. That's how close they are. Yeah. And so, but she apparently, like, she'll take in like 30 to 40 fawns throughout the year. And as soon as they get big enough in like September to jump her 5-foot fence, they're kind of just, you know, eventually they'd all jump out and leave and don't come back. And well, I'm guessing that's a huge part of why there's so many coyotes in my 40 is because there's 40 stupid fawns. Not to be stupid, but like they weren't raised in the wild. Like their mothers died, they're bottle fed. They don't understand danger the same way. And I'm sure those coyotes it's like the China buffet for them.
Oh yeah, it has to be.
And this all takes place about 100 yards from my food plot.
Wow.
So and so I think that's why we have a lot of them here. So I'm gonna try to do what I can to help out, like you said, because I just like the thought of owning a 40 and living on it and like hunting it and turning it into this dream farm. You know, you hear 12 coyotes at once, you're like, oh, that's not part of my dream.
Not ideal.
That was not part of the plan.
Yeah, not ideal.
So I want to try that, but I think what's really fun is going out west. Like I have an acquaintance that we used to pheasant hunt with, and he's in Montana, just like one of the most not only well-rounded but also like highest quality sportsmen. Like everything he does, like he seems like he's successful. He probably, if he was on the podcast, but it's not even close to true. But when you're following the updates on Facebook and Instagram, like I was shooting nice bucks, huge bulls, like having a blast, like super well-rounded sportsman. And him and his son went out one weekend and shot 58 coyotes.
Jeez.
I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, they had a flatbed trailer full of them. It was insane.
Right.
And like, obviously that's a fluke. They probably didn't sleep for 48 straight hours and had like the world's best land. But still, like just to see, like to shoot like 2 in a day to me would be amazing. I've never shot 1.
Yeah.
And so that's why I wanted, like, it'd be fun to like work in a 3-day trip out west and just have fun. You're out in the, you know, nothing else to do this time of year.
Right.
And so that's why I was trying to kind of get into it a little bit and have a fun topic, bring it up as a podcast topic. Like there's a lot of opportunity in the West, and it's not all from September to December. Like you can go out and scope out maybe a unit you're going to hunt this year and bring a coyote rifle and shoot some coyotes and, you know, help the deer herd while you're at it. And you're at least learning the roads, the canyons. You can take note of stuff, maybe find a shed, an old shed. Can't pick it up, I suppose, with most of the state's laws, but But yeah, I just figured it'd be a sweet thing to talk about this time of year.
Yeah, I mean, anything to get you out in the woods and works on your woodsmanship, and I mean, that's all. It's all still the same game, right? It's just a different adversary, and yeah, I think you're keeping the wind. You're all these things. It's just like calling whitetails. It's just like calling turkey. Well, not calling turkeys all the way; they can't smell. But those things are the same kind of setups, and you utilize a lot of that, and a lot of that comes across platforms.
Yeah, with the one thing I liked about when we talked about bullets is I've always got this dilemma because I'm like a tool person. Like I don't collect firearms. I don't like, oh, I got an extra $1,000, I'm going to buy a new gun. I've never been that guy. My family just really hasn't been that guy. I've been shooting the same shotgun since I turned 12. Um, and so I have tools. Like I have an elk rifle, I have a whitetail bow, I have a bird shotgun. Like I don't have doubles of anything. And the where it becomes an issue is the rifle. Like how do you, if you're going to invest in a rifle and nice optics, it's like, well, I'd love it. It needs to handle elk. Like that's a requirement. I'm going elk hunting like every year.
Right.
It'd be sweet if it could handle moose, deer for sure. Like I'm going to use this for deer, but then what happens when antelope comes around? If you got a rifle for moose, it's not a good rifle for an antelope.
Right.
Same thing with the cow. But what I liked about the 6mm is that I feel like that would be a pretty perfect antelope rifle.
It would be. Yeah.
I mean, based on what we talked about, like,
oh yeah,
243 is usually the gold standard.
Right.
If it's a hopped up 243, should be no reason why it wouldn't be a great antelope rifle too, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's way flatter shooting. That's what I shoot my deer with. When I rifle hunt deer, I shoot my 6mm as well. I shoot the same gun. Yeah, it's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, same bullet and everything. I mean, it does phenomenal.
What would be like your comfortable like range on a mule deer with that bullet, where you're like, no issues at all. I can put the bullet where it needs to be every time. The energy is perfect. Because eventually, like, one or two of those things are going to start falling off the wagon. Like,
Yeah.
well, bullet might not. I could hit 10, but the bullet might not have the energy I'd like at 1,200 yards or what.
Right.
Whatever
Yeah.
it is.
I think for me, it's probably 350. I mean, I can shoot the gun out to 6. Well,
Right.
I know it there with my turrets and things, but 350 is pretty much, that's my confidence. I mean, that's where I feel most with the bullet performing, especially when you're talking into a deer. We've shot a couple deer here in Missouri at like 320, 330, and it does well. But the bullet definitely, you can tell, loses power.
Sure.
You almost don't get a pass through out of it. I mean, it gets into the cavity well. You just have to stay off of the shoulder. I would, just to be safe. But yeah, 350, no problem at all out of that bullet by any means.
Okay, so for like if you're in a controlled situation, like I used to do a lot of West River whitetail hunting. I loved it. But typically you're in a little bit more controlled environment. You're like, I'm on a bluff. There's this river valley.
Right.
Like this is where the deer's gonna be. It's 200 to this side, 300 to the far side. Like, yeah, one could be somewhere else, but probably gonna be here.
Right.
Or in like food plots, like our food plot's 200 yards. I'm shooting this field that's 200. Controlled environments. Great gun. You're doing like a super intense mountain mule deer hunt. It's like, I don't know. Like it could be a 400-yard shot, could be a quartering 2 at 4. I mean, lots of variables could stack up. Would you maybe switch it out for like that situation and take a different rifle?
I don't know, because I'm so comfortable with that caliber that it's tough.
It's just like I know where this bullet's gonna go.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I've pulled some pretty magical rabbits out of the hat. Like I shot a coyote at 728 with it at night in a thermal. Like
wow.
I shot a coyote. I've shot multiple coyotes at over 400 with it in a thermal,
right.
and in my day scope as well. But I know the caliber. I'm kind of like you are. I don't have a ton of guns, but the one gun I have, I spend a lot of time with, and so it's super tough for me to go up a caliber. I think if I went on a rifle elk hunt, I'd probably take it, and I'd try to lung burn one and just do the ribs. You know what I mean? Like I feel more confident with that than to take a big caliber gun and shoot it through the shoulder. You know what? Am I right, wrong? I don't know, but that's just how I feel about it. I do
both. I take a giant caliber and then I try to double on them.
yeah. But that's you get into that stuff, and it's a preference thing. The biggest thing is just one you're comfortable with, right? Like one
Yeah.
and that gun I love because even if you're dead on at 100 yards with it, you're 6 inches low at 300. So
Okay, so not much.
I go up, I shoot 2.5 inches high at 100, and then I'm
Yeah.
about 4 inches low at 300. So I can go top of the coyote's back essentially, and be fine at 300. I would rather aim low close than have to aim super high far, if that makes sense.
Oh, so you're not doing any type of dialing.
No, I'm not dialing, especially like out of the thermal and stuff. No, it's all holdovers because you just don't have the time. You just don't have the time. You just don't have. It's dark. You know what I mean? Like,
Do they? Yeah, thermals would be a challenge. Do they have any like first focal plane thermals?
no, so it's a different game. Yeah, you have to learn you have to pick your reticle, which is cool because you can go through and pick your own reticles and things. So I pick my reticles with my holdovers and things like that to where I kind of know what dot, and I've shot it enough to know the dot, and I can do the math in my brain to know, okay, he's 330. It's going to be about 5 inches low. Let's play it 5 inches high, and we'll be good to go on the holdover kind of thing.
Oh, so you don't have like that dot that's my 200 dot, my 400 dot, my.
Sometimes it lines up that way, but not
Well,
often.
even or like that's my that dot's 275. This dot's 340. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have just a number in your mind.
No.
You're just doing like a drop, and you're like, 6 inches over a coyote's back's like the same as his like whatever length of his nose or whatever.
His eye height, like his eye, put it as eye height essentially, or his eyeball height, and then that's gonna give me about
I suppose
that.
So you're doing like top of the ears, top of the head, eye, chin, shoulder.
Yeah, because there's
is it pretty much you hit him in the front half, you get him.
If you shoot a 100-grain bullet, yeah.
If you shoot a 100-grain bullet, okay.
I mean, that's just it, though. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, you go shooting like a 45 grainer or a 55 grainer. Like, if you don't hit him perfect, he will carry the bullet and run with it. Like, that's another whole thing behind it.
And nobody wants that.
No, that's the worst. Yeah. So,
do you ever intentionally like put a bullet like in the like the head, or if they're like close enough, like so if the fur like in mind, like that's where I'd be like, hey, this is a 50-yard shot, like I can pick the hair I'm gonna hit, and I want to keep the hide. Like maybe you can look at, maybe it's broad daylight, you're like, that's a beautiful coyote, like it's 50 yards, like I'm gonna blow through this thing unless I put this bullet right where it needs to be. Would you ever do like, if I shoot it in the head, which I mean, this is a hunting podcast, it's environment, like get over that aspect of it, like you're gonna have a better hide at the end of the day.
Maybe, but you also could destroy the face.
Oh, because it's the face part of the hide that you really like to keep?
Yeah.
Oh, because you're saying like you're going to hit that bone and then the bone's going to grenade.
It's going to, just
so you're almost better not. You'd almost be better to just do the same double lung, try to put 2 tiny holes in it.
I'm telling you, the best thing for saving hide is just shooting lungs. Stay off the shoulder and just put one right through the lungs, like right through the rib cage, and you'll be all right.
A lot of times you get the full frontal on a coyote, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then are you trying to hit that little pocket where there's like no bones?
Yeah.
Like the full frontal elk shot
Absolutely.
that everyone talks about?
Yeah, like on a whitetail, like where the esophagus goes in to the front of the chest. Yeah, you try to hit that. And that way, like I said, I've done that with bobcats, and they have, absolutely taken it, not had any blowout at all. And there's a couple of bobcats I've shot, I literally couldn't even tell where I hit them. Like, it's just, there's just a little
Maybe
injury.
Just scared them.
Yeah, right. It's kind of scary because you go to reach, you're like reaching
blood.
down, like moving them, and I'm like, there's no blood. Like, hope this thing doesn't come to life and rip my arm off here real quick.
Yeah, you like you missed terribly. You gave him like a concussion with the airwave. Yeah. My gosh, I can't imagine a worse. I think I would rather take a coyote.
100%.
In close quarters than a bobcat.
100%. Yes. Absolutely.
Like, they're both going to mess you up with their teeth.
Yes, but
at least the coyote's claws are basically worthless.
Yeah, like you could, like the coyote, all you have to do is get a hold of his mouth, right? Like the bobcat's
going to suck.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to still suck.
It is, but the bobcat's got 4 claws that it's going to grab a hold of you to where you can't get rid of it. Like
that are razor blades.
Yeah, like that thing latches. I mean, have you seen the house cat videos I've seen attacking people are horrible. So I can only imagine.
My brother loves to say this, but he's, when everyone, like there was the hiker in Colorado that got attacked by the mountain lion and killed him with a rock.
Yeah.
And then the story comes out that it was like a 45-pound juvenile, and everyone's like, that's not that tough anymore. He's not that much of a man. My brother's like, try go giving your 12-pound cat a bath.
Yeah.
And then see what you think about fighting a 45-pound wild animal.
Dude, yeah. I'm going to tell you one thing I never have said before in real life. Well, not probably on a podcast ever before, is the one thing that scares me more than anything in the world is a mountain lion. Like they're just wicked, dude. They hunt you, like they kill for fun. And I can't help to think that once they got a hold of you, there's no getting away.
So me and my brother, we elk hunt every year. We're typically archery elk hunting. So we've run into grizzly country. We've seen, our group has seen mountain lions. We've seen it all. And so everyone, like this last year, went to Colorado. So more mountain lions than, the farther southwest you get, the cats go up compared to like Montana, Wyoming. They're still there, but there's a lot more of them.
Yeah.
And so I sent my, one of the guys in our group was especially worried about cats. And so I sent them the picture of that mountain lion that Derek Wolf shot in Colorado. I don't know if you've seen this thing. This thing is massive. This thing's head is like this big.
Really?
I mean, Derek Wolf I'm pretty sure he's a Pro Bowler. He's a D lineman from the NFL. Like he's huge. He's like 6'8", and he's doing the whole cat pose. The cat's as big as he is.
Oh.
Like it's not like some 5'6" guy or girl holding a cat that's as big as them. This guy's a monster human being, and this cat is huge. Like a 250-pound Tom. This thing's massive. So I sent a picture to him the night before we left. Because me and my brother, we take the stance that we're not going to be afraid of cats.
Right.
We're not afraid of cats. We don't do anything in cat country. We don't carry pistols or spray for cats. Because we're like, if you have a cat problem, you'll never know it.
Yeah, that's it.
You'll never know it.
That's what I'm saying.
You'll be dead before you knew you had a cat problem.
100%.
And so we're like, no worries. We're not worth worrying about that.
Right.
Either way, we're not going to have anything to do about it. It's going to jump up on us, have its mouth around our neck. We're going to fight for like 3 seconds and be gone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just it. That's what
grizzly
makes
bears.
them scary.
We prep for grizzly bears.
Right.
We don't prep for mountain lions.
Yeah, that's what makes them scary. Like they just literally just hunt you. Like you're
imagine if you were like you and your buddy, you're laying on a bluff in like the grass, like you're in Montana, North Dakota, Wyoming, and you're hunting and you're shooting, and you or your buddy goes and gets like the decoy and the coyote, and he's walking back, and he just sees that head like right over you,
like a jaw second.
Like
yeah,
just 5 feet behind you, and there's nothing he can do. He's 50 yards away.
Yeah,
and he just watches it. Like you would never know.
No clue. Yeah. I can't mess with them, man. I'm glad they're not.
I suppose most people typically don't coyote hunt areas where there's a lot of cats, but like the Badlands, there's cats in the Badlands, like South Dakota, North Dakota, like some of the Dakota's best coyote hunting grounds got mountain lions in it.
Yeah, I mean, we have them here. Like there's been sightings here, they've been confirmed here, multiple ones, but like we always joke about it. I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do if we ever call a coyote or call a mountain lion in at night, like because that's when it would probably be because they're so dang elusive. But like, I don't know. I don't know. I'd be terrified.
Well, you're probably not supposed to shoot it.
No, you can't. No.
Well, it depends. I think every state probably depends. Like in Texas, you probably could shoot it because it's probably not considered a game animal.
Right. Yeah. In Missouri, you can't.
Yeah. So Missouri, you can't
unless they're attacking you.
And I don't think 50 yards at your decoy is self-defense.
Yeah, I don't think you could pull that off. No.
I would probably just I'd stand up. You definitely wouldn't want to lose your night vision.
That's what I'm saying. You got to stay in the scope, man. You can't.
And I would make as much noise as humanly possible. I'd be yelling at this thing, screaming at this thing, and I'd be watching it. And if it doesn't turn around, it would start to be self-defense really fast.
Yeah, it just adds to it being at nighttime. Like, you have two options. Either you stay in your thermal and keep an eye on it, or you abandon the thermal and run for it and into the darkness. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't think I would run. I don't think I would abandon the thermal and run.
No.
I may keep the thermal and run backwards as fast as I can.
Right.
But I would keep my eyes on that sucker.
Oh, yeah, dude. There's no way. Yeah.
I think if most mountain lions, especially in Missouri, you start talking and it knows you're a human, it's gone.
Gone. Yeah, you're right.
If you're in like the Bob Marshall, it's like, ooh, a human.
Mm-hmm.
This looks like an easy lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we really are. I mean, a 150-pound cat versus us, like, not a chance.
No.
If you really, like, if you took guns and bows out of the equation, like, I'll give you a knife, you'll still lose.
You'll still lose. Absolutely.
Right.
No chance.
Yeah. No, I'd definitely take the coyote. I don't know what I would do. I'd probably go for, like, I don't think I'd purposely grab the mouth. I think I'd probably try to grab the throat about as hard. This is really strange, but I was thinking about this last night.
Yeah.
Because there's a dog training technique where you like flip your dog over and you hold him like right underneath his chin. You just hold him down upside, like firmly, but like not mean. Like you're not choking him. You just flip him over and immobilize him.
Yeah.
And it's part of like, it's supposed to be part of like a canine pack like hierarchy where it's like they submit, and once they quit fighting, then they know like you're just in charge.
Yeah.
And you just let them up.
Right.
And eventually, like, you can flip your dog over and hold, and he doesn't even fight you. He'll fight anyone else, but he won't fight you because he knows he's not going to win.
Right.
And I did this once with a puppy that I was, growing up in my parents' house. It was their dog, but I was like 12, so I was training it. And it was like 5 years later. I'm like, I wonder if he still remembers. And so if the whole point, though, is you can't lose. Like, once you lose, then that dog thinks he's in charge of you. And so I don't know. Dog trainers are probably going to write in and tell me how wrong this is to do. But I'm like 4 years later, I'm like, I wonder if he still remembers. Now I'm like 16. We're outside. I remember I was going bow fishing, so I'm wearing like gym shorts and a cutoff. And I try to flip him over, and it turned into like a 30-minute brawl through the backyard. Like he's trying to flip me over and get on top, and I'm trying not to lose. And we ended up, my parents' house is like 40 yards down to the lake. And we started up by the patio, and we ended up like 10 feet from the shore. My shirt was gone. It was ripped off. I was scraped everywhere. But I remember thinking, like, once you got two hands on the underneath, that was the problem. You can never get both hands in time.
Right.
But once you get on top of them with two hands, it's actually kind of easy to control a normal-sized lab. And a coyote, like, what's a big coyote weigh? 35 or 30,
like
40 pounds?
Usually males are like high 30s to low 40s at max, yeah.
So if you got two hands on them, like right around the neck and the ears, but then you're like, okay, now what?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So at least with the cat, you got three sharp objects in two hands. You're going to lose anyway. But yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about that last night. Like what happens, because I've been thinking about this whole trapping thing and like what happens if I trap the wrong, like an animal I'm not supposed to trap. I got to release it.
Yeah.
And they come at you. And then I'm like, well, I could try to do the thing with the dog. Try to like flip it over and hold it down and see if I can tame this coyote. Oof. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't come up with any good answers. And the problem is that like the one species I'm probably not supposed to trap is going to be a wolf.
Oh yeah, that'd be the worst.
And I'm not doing that with a wolf.
No.
Sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah. Yeah, my buddy in Indiana, they can't. I think it's Indiana. They can't keep bobcats. So like he's letting bobcats out of traps. I'm like, that's the last thing I'd want to do.
No,
you just have to let one out. They're just, man, those things are freaking wicked.
The problem is you're definitely not going to die either.
No.
I mean, that's not the problem. But you are going to live through that pain in those scabs.
You're getting mauled.
You're going to have to feel every inch of those.
Oh, yeah. Brutal.
That does sound bad. That sounds terrible. So, like, when you're talking coyote sizes, though, you said, like, a big male is in the 40s still. Like, a 50-pound coyote, for example, would be, like, talk of the, like, dude, you hear Blake shot a 50-pound coyote? You're like,
yeah, I'm not saying they're not there. I think there's some places probably in the United States, but Missouri, the biggest coyote I've ever shot in Missouri was 42. A male. But a lot of males, older males, are usually, we find them somewhere between, like, 37 and 40. 40's a big one. I mean, 40's like the equivalent of shooting a 180 deer. I mean, that's a kind of rare, kind of bigger animal.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
for us. Now, granted, you can probably get out west and shoot some 50s and whatever. There's probably some places in the United States. I know Canada has some really, really big coyotes up there. You guys probably do.
I also think you get in certain places like mixed gene pools.
Yeah.
Like, I've heard, for example, in South Dakota with like reservations and like stray dogs, and then they kind of mix in with some coyotes, and all of a sudden you're getting like coyotes the size of a German Shepherd.
Right.
Which sounds scary.
Yeah. Not good.
But yeah, okay, so 40 is a pretty big one.
Yeah. For here, from Missouri at least, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that still is a big animal.
It's a big dog.
Like, what's a bobcat going? Like 20 pounds, 30 pounds?
Yeah, most of the bobcats are upper 20s. You can get some bigger ones. I think the state record's like 40 something, maybe 50, but I think it's high 40s, which is monstrous. I think the biggest bobcat I've ever killed was 34, I think, or 33 or something like that. And it was I was like, oh, this thing's got to be a state record. Like, it was big, but I don't.
Oh yeah,
I can only imagine what a 40-pound bobcat.
I
It's
can't
a
imagine
beast.
either. What's the breakdown of like when you go like I don't know. What's the breakdown of animals? Like if you were to shoot 100 animals, how many of them are like coyotes versus a bobcat? I suppose there's some foxes thrown in there.
Yeah, we.
Is that the only real three that you really see
Mhm.
calling predators?
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, we call them like raccoons will come to the call like no other. Like I never knew how much raccoons actually hunted, um, until I started really
Man,
calling.
they gotta be terrible
Oh my
at
God,
hunting.
they
Like
just
they're
run.
probably like, oh man, that thing's not moving. We can finally catch one.
Yeah, they just run in and just absolutely belly flop the call. Like they'll
But they're
just
not like
belly flop it.
overly fast or agile.
No,
Like they're not
no.
as fast as a coyote. They're not sneaky like a cat. Like they kind of are. Like they probably think that when they see the call and it's not moving, they're like, I bet we can catch this one.
Yeah.
And they just run at like
Oh,
they have like a gang mentality. Like,
yeah, they just jump in and literally I mean, I have some thermal videos of just them just absolutely running across the field and just belly flopping the call. And then they just walk away like in shame, like just
right.
slowly.
Whenever I see them walking, they look like the most unathletic animals.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like on the level of porcupines.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. Yeah.
like waddle,
Yep.
especially if they're corn fed and their belly's dragging on the ground.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've had them come in. I mean, we had a 3-legged one come in that literally had 3 legs and ran all the way in and jumped on
Ooh.
the call. Like, there's just,
He got trapped.
yeah, you got out of somebody's trap. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. But that's what you call for the most part.
You
We,
ever shoot the raccoons?
no, we can't. It's so dumb.
Oh,
I know. I wish you
really?
could. Yeah. Yeah. You can't.
I bet we can't either. Then I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems like a weird animal to have that many rules about.
And everybody talks about them being the problem. And I'm like, well, if they're the problem, let's fix the problem.
Oh,
Like,
with ducks and pheasants and turkeys for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Like, what are we
Those suckers are
doing?
the problem.
But you also can't shoot bobcats here at night, which makes
Oh.
zero sense to me because you can shoot them during the day in the same time frame, but you can't shoot them at night with a thermal.
I bet people are worried you're gonna accidentally shoot their cat.
Maybe, but man, you can tell. Like,
Well,
there's
yeah, who's got 40-pound cats running
Yeah,
around? Well,
like-
not all of them are 40 pounds.
right, but even
Yeah.
23-pound cats run around that. You know what I mean? They're that long-legged, and it's just
Yeah.
I don't know.
With
I don't.
paws the size of paddles.
Yeah, like I don't know, and no tail. Like you know what I mean? But,
Oh yeah, that's true. They don't have tails. So
Yeah.
like yeah, house cat's gonna have that tail
right.
that gives them away.
Yeah.
So those are the three. So like, what would be the breakdown of like how many? I would assume it's mostly coyotes, but like,
Yeah.
out of 100 coyotes, how many bobcats and foxes are mixed in?
I would say it's low. I mean, I probably kill I probably only kill maybe 5 or 6 bobcats a year.
Yeah,
Um,
and same for foxes, or
And same for foxes are super intentional for us. They aren't in the wild, so they're always around some type of town, some type
Oh.
of community per se. So we'll
what
like
do you mean they're not in the wild?
we don't have them out like just at farms. Like you have to get close to like a small town or like a small.
Oh,
human
so you're
structure.
saying like
You see what I mean?
they
Like,
are wild. They just
Yeah.
there's not enough of them that you'll just find one out in the prairie.
Yeah, like we got to go. Like a lot of the foxes we've killed have been around like old houses or even like on the outskirts of a town. A lot of times you'll kill foxes. We just don't see them much out away from civilization much here. Now I
That's
know,
weird
I
for
know.
me. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because coyotes and them kind of have this love-hate
heard that.
relationship. They'll
I
run.
have heard that.
Yeah, they'll kill foxes and they don't like each other, and I don't know if it's that or if it's just a habitat thing. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is, but now you go out west like Colorado, like where they have grays. We only have reds here for the most part. Where they have grays and stuff. Like I know guys that go out there and call them in the middle of nowhere. You know what I mean? They live just
Really?
like everything else. Yeah, but they're even
Okay.
less. I mean, I think I've shot in my life. I think I've only shot like 3 foxes. Like we just don't
Oh,
get them
wow.
a bunch. Yeah, we don't have them a
Yeah,
bunch
okay,
here.
so don't expect a fox.
No. If you get a fox, it's a rarity, for sure.
That's cool. One of the last things I wanted to ask you kind of came up, and I didn't really realize that we were talking about can't shoot bobcats at night
Mhm.
because I'm sure the cat people are worried you're gonna shoot their cat. But then I was like, I feel like it's a lot easier to shoot someone's dog on accident
Way
with
easier.
thermal.
Way
Not
easier.
saying like it happens. Like obviously it doesn't happen, but how do you like? Is there ever when you're looking at one and maybe it's like you're not getting good clarity for whatever reason? You're like, man, I think that's a coyote, but like there are some homes on this. We're not too far away from some houses. I don't know. Like, what if it is a dog? Or how often do you see an actual dog? And you're like, okay, well, that's clearly a dog.
Yeah,
Like a lab, you're gonna be able to tell a lab because
100%.
its ears are floppy. But like,
Right.
what if it's like a little border collie looking thing? With
Right,
pointed
like a
ears, like a blue heeler.
blue
Would be
heelers.
terrible.
Yeah, German shepherds are usually a little bigger, but a young German
that'd scare the
shepherd,
shit out
you
of me.
know.
A German shepherd running at me in the middle of the dark,
Yeah.
and I'd be like, "There's a wolf."
The thing is, they don't hunt like a coyote does, if that makes sense. And
So
they,
it'd have to be a wild dog.
yeah, it'd have to be a wild dog for the most part. I mean, there's been times we've called them many times, and there's been times we're like, oh, I don't know what that is. I don't know. So we just let them go ahead and finish. And a lot of times a dog will like set back and then start barking at 100 yards, or, I mean, they just won't crash the
Okay.
call and they just won't hunt it. There's not that predatorial instinct like what a coyote has. So anytime, and I'm going to sound like I'm preaching safety here, but anytime there's a question, we just don't shoot.
Right.
I mean, what's
Yeah.
it? Okay, I lose that coyote. It's well worth that than to shoot somebody's freaking yard dog. You know what I mean? So it's,
Yeah, that would be awful. Like no one would want to do that.
no,
one would.
man. So like,
That's not good for anyone.
no.
How often are you seeing something that you're like, either that is for sure a dog or I might be a dog? Like, is it every year you're seeing stuff like this, or like?
No, maybe once a year. Maybe I'd say at most. Yeah, it's not very common, but we're also not in a very
Populated
area. Yeah, it's not. Now, I'm sure you get around that. You get around people that have dogs. Like, you got to kind of be mindset of that. There are some places we call where, like, we can see a house, while we're hunting. And
Right.
we always check the house first before we start calling. And then if we keep calling, we always kind of scan it to see if it comes from that direction. Obviously,
Right.
it's probably their house dog because they're going to be barking when we pull up and things like that. So we just kind of keep that in our minds when we're out there. But
Yeah.
it's,
Is it pretty easy to be like, something doesn't look right?
yeah.
Like if someone's new with thermal and they're hunting and they're like, man, I don't think that looks right.
Right.
Like it's because coyotes have a pretty distinct shape and they're all the same. Like
And they
for
move,
the most part.
and they move,
Like the little hoppy.
yeah, well, they have very fast legs. So
Yeah.
if you, with a thermal, there's a lot of times at night we'll see something and I'll be like, ooh, that looks like a coyote. But until it moves, I can't tell. So it could either be a raccoon, it could be whatever. Like, you're talking 500 yards, 600 yards out there. You just can't tell. You're just getting heat signature. So you watch it and see what it does. And once it starts moving, you can quickly identify if it's a possum, a raccoon, whatever the case may be.
Okay. So I've seen this before on like TikToks, where people are hunting with thermals, and I think it's more common with hogs, but they'll be like, dude, there's a hog. And the guy's like, where? He's like, right there in the middle of the field. Like, you not see it? It's right there. And he's like, no, I can't see it at all. He's like, it's in the wide open. Like, how do you not see this thing? And it's thermal. And so the guy's like, you can tell he's looking everywhere. And I'm like, I can't find it. He's like, well, I'm going to shoot it. He's like, well, how do you know it's a hog? It's like, dude, I don't know. There's no hog out there. Like, I don't know what you're looking at, but it's not a hog. Like,
Right.
don't shoot it. He's like, well, I'm going to shoot it. It's right there. It's pure white. And the guy looks over. He's like, dude, you're pointing like 4 feet in front of you in the ground. He's like, oh, must have been a mouse.
Yeah.
It's like, does stuff like that ever happen though when you have thermals? Because it just warps your perception
Absolutely.
of like reality, and you think you're looking at like this, and you're like, oh shoot, that's not even close. I was way over here.
Man, yeah. There's times guys get in there and like birds in a fence row when they're roosting at night, like little songbirds and stuff will roost in there. So if you're, you have no depth perception. I always tell everybody who's going to thermal hunt, like, save your money and buy one with an LRF in it, because there is no chance you can tell yardage at all.
Oh, so you're saying
At
like,
all.
oh, that's 30 yards away, so it's not a coyote.
It's not a
Like,
coyote.
that was-
Right.
Or like,
right.
oh, this is 4 inches in front of my barrel. It's probably not a hog.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because
Okay.
that happens, dude. I mean, the first time we went out, we're like, oh my God, there's like 5 over there. And it's like, no, those are just songbirds at 10 feet away in this fence row. You know what I mean? But like,
Oh Jesus!
you just
open
can't
up on
tell until you spend some time on your optic and like understanding how things go. Yeah, you got to get an LRF though. That's hands down, because it's telling distance is just not there. You just can't do it. It's a different game.
I had a buddy that had an AR with. He didn't have LRF, but he had night vision on it, and I don't know why he bought it, but he had it, and he just used it to check his food plots at night. And he'd just be like, "Hey, dude, there's a huge buck out there. You want to see it?" And we're at a campfire, and he just holds up, and it's like, "Holy crap!" Like you could see everything. You could see the blood vessels in his antlers because it was in summers of full velvet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible. I was like, man, I want one of these.
Dude,
Another one of those things where it's like something always else comes up, but they look sweet.
Yeah, I use mine like crazy. So in Missouri, you can't legally possess one with a weapon anywhere unless it's thermal season. So I have a hand scanner that doesn't go on a weapon. It's just, handheld. And I'll keep it. And in the summer, I'll go out and scout bean fields. In the old days, I used to go sit in the bean fields in the evenings and just hope they daylighted so I could get some video of them. Well, now I am able to take the hand scanner out and drive around and get on these fields and watch with the hand scanner and see what bucks are using what and where without a weapon. And it's such a cool tool. If it's a legal thing in your state, it's a great way to scout that and scout turkeys as well. Like,
you just look up and look for a bunch of white dots.
Yeah, you're like, oh, look, that's the tree they're in. Like, what tree
I
they're
could
in.
do that from my deck.
Yeah.
Where the turkeys would be is like 200 yards behind the house. And there's enough of a rise where when they're roosted, I bet I could pick them out from the house and be I know where to hunt in the morning.
Yeah. You could utilize it that way. There's just a ton of cool uses for thermals. I hope
Do you use it blood trailing?
Yeah. I'll do that sometimes too.
Do you usually find them pretty fast with that sucker?
I mean, it's a line of sight thing is how it works. So, it's a little different. Obviously, you're going through thick stuff, but there's been the multiple times that I've got up on deer that were questionably wounded. And instead of just waiting till the next morning, we'll give it till dark, and then we'll sneak in with the wind and the thermal, the handheld, and just get eyes on them to see where they are. So, like, if it's a mediocre shot and we don't know what they're going to do, I would have, typically I would have just backed out and not gone in there. Right. But with having the thermal scanner, I'm able to go in there that evening and just get eyes on them and see where they are and see how they're acting, see all that stuff, and I can kind of tell. And 9 times out of 10, unfortunately, we've left them because what else can you do? And gone back the next morning, and coyotes have gotten them up and moved them, and then we have to try to refarm them again, and then we go on a blood trail anyway in the morning. But sometimes they'll stay where they are if the coyotes don't mess with them, and you'll end up picking them up right there where they're dead the next morning. But
yeah, every deer I've ever recovered leaving them a night, luckily they didn't have any issues with coyotes. They stayed right where I left them. The only deer I've ever not recovered at all were deer that I left overnight, and it was pretty evident the coyotes ran them off. I had bow hunt one night. I saw 4 coyotes in between when I shot a doe and when I got out of my stand. I shot at one. That was one I missed. I didn't have an arrow knocked. I'm like, oh, that was crazy. And he caught the tracks of my blood trail. And I'm like, oh, no, he probably smelled that wounded deer. Like, I scared him off, but I bet he's not leaving.
Right.
And then I saw another one. I tried to knock an arrow, and he busted me knocking an arrow. And then 2 more came in that were like a ways away. And the way they all went, there was at least 3 different coyotes. Because I saw 2 at once, and one of them was still over here.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure there was 4.
Right.
And I'm like, there's no chance I'm finding that deer.
Yeah. They push them around, and then it's just no holds bar. They go anywhere.
Yeah, she just ran. She didn't bed again after that one bed, and I drilled her like I didn't drill her because obviously I didn't recover right away, but it was like I showed everyone the video, and they're like, I can't believe that deer's not dead. Like, if anything, I suppose you got liver.
Right.
And typically a liver shot deer is going to crash, maybe bed a couple times in 50 yards, and you'll find them in the morning.
Right.
Never bedded again. Ran to the 300 yards off our property. Blood was starting to get super sparse. I think those coyotes just ran her to death.
Yeah.
So another reason to start hunting coyotes, I suppose.
That's a fact. That is a fact.
Yeah. Start laying down.
Sounds like you got a decent population at least to hunt. So.
Well, that's different farm. That's not even this
one.
Okay.
That's
another family farm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever hunt them from? I noticed you have a couple of like bigger box blinds for your deer hunting.
Uh-huh.
Do you ever sit in those to hunt?
I don't. I don't.
Because options are so limited with windows and
and getting them around and stuff. Yeah.
How fast you need to be.
Right. Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
I haven't, but I mean, yeah, you can definitely. I know guys that do all the time. It's wouldn't be a problem. Be a comfortable way to do it for sure.
Yeah, I've got a big platform, and I just put a blind on it this year. But before it was just a platform. I'm like, that would have been perfect because it's a CRP farm, so everything's open.
Yeah.
I could just lay it up there on the big platform and kind of like Call of Duty.
Yeah, Chris Kyle some shit.
Yeah, that would have been great. So that would have been great. But no, it's something that I'm definitely interested in. And then when I get interested in something, usually like the next 4 podcasts are with people from that. Like the next 4 guests will be coyote hunters, 'cause
Right.
it's just, and then I'll get back onto shed hunting or something else.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely something I want to get into a little bit, and maybe eventually build a rifle for it that'd be like an antelope coyote rifle.
Yeah.
So I'm not shooting antelope with my 300 Win Mag
Right.
anymore.
Yeah. I'd say
So-
you need you have a spot in your gun that you need a gun for.
I do have a gap in my rifles.
Yeah.
I got the trapper and I got the elk.
Yeah.
There's a lot of distance in between.
Pretty solid
so,
gap there. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I appreciate you being here today, Blake.
Yeah, man.
Talking coyotes with you. We never even got to the deer, so we'll have to do something else in the future. But
For sure.
before we end this up today, give people a chance to follow along with you and your adventures, because you're pretty active out on the social media platforms. So
Yeah.
send people wherever you'd like to send them, and have them follow along.
Yeah, so it's at the Blake Garrett on Instagram, at the Blake Garrett 8 on TikTok, and then I also run Unfiltered Outdoors, which is on Instagram as well, but then also on YouTube as well. So we put some recorded content on there, but the majority of everything goes through Instagram and TikTok right now. Just kind of doing some shorts and playing with some different production stuff. I need to sit down and do some recorded stuff because I've got a little backlog of some hunts, from coyotes to deer to turkeys, that I haven't edited up yet that I need to do, but hopefully I'll have some free time after these next couple months to do it.
You know how many people are running around with camo hats and Adobe Creative subscriptions that just spend like endless amounts of time editing? Like, editing video is the worst.
Oh, it is, man.
Everything else is fun about what we do except editing video.
It's brutal. I have to get in a mindset. Like, I have to just crash into it to where I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to sleep for the next week, and I'm just going to knock this out. Because I can't just dabble into it, because once I start into it, I can't get out. You know what I mean? Like, I can't get out and go back. So I just have to like do it in a giant chunk.
I hear you. I'm the same way, but yeah, we'll put the links to the socials in the show notes of this episode, so go check it out. Go see some of the dogs we're talking about.
Yeah.
Go see some of the giant bucks. But once again, thank you for being here today, Blake,
Yeah, man.
and thank you for listening, folks.